if you're someone that has a long list of books that you want to read, and you're not really sure which one to read next, or you feel that there are books on your list that you're just never going to get to, then today I'm going to show you what I'm doing to make sure that I'm reading the most appropriate and relevant book to me next, and I'm also capturing some information and knowledge from the books further down on my list quicker, instead of having to wait until I get to that book. Hi guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. My name's Ben. I'm an aspiring entrepreneur and constantly striving to be better every single day. And today I'm just going to be showing you how I'm using detailed summary notes to make better decisions on what book to read next, and to also understand and gain knowledge from different themes in books that are maybe further down my list that I wouldn't necessarily get to in a year or 2 years time. And before you say, oh well, summary notes, everyone's got their opinion on them. I'm not saying they are the same as reading the full book. However, I believe that using more detailed summary notes, as in people who have written summary notes that are quite a few pages long, I'm using those to condense and highlight things that stand out for me, and then go further explore those ideas. And so yeah, I'm going to show you with an example how I'm taking book summary notes to decide whether that book is a book that I want to read, and also to capture some of the knowledge in that book sooner than I would if it was just on my book list and I wasn't going to touch it until I got to it, which who knows how long that could be. So the book that I'm going to be looking at today is The 50th Law by Robert Greene, and I'm just going to walk through the different steps that I take when it comes to using detailed summary notes. So just to outline it quickly, I have found a number of different websites that have detailed summary notes on a vast number of different books, and the reason I've picked these is because, one, the notes are fairly long. They have quite a lot of books on their website that I like, and they're free, and I will scour these different websites when I'm doing this to see if there's a book that I want to make notes on, do they have it, and if a couple of them have it, I'll take both of their notes, and what I'll then do is I will go through all of the notes and then highlight anything that stands out to me, and then once I've done that, I'll then go through my highlights and I will actually download a version, an ebook of the book, and I will then try and search for those highlights within the book, do some extra reading around it, make then more notes under that highlight, and then once I've done that, I will then look at my highlights, and then I will then start to then progressively summarize the next stage and make more of a summary, taking the key points from the highlights, and that then gives me a really good idea of what the book is about, what things that interest me and are relevant to me in the book. I would have done enough reading to kind of actually take stuff on board, and then that gives me, by actually going into the book and reading passages from it, I'll then get a really good understanding of whether I think this will be a book that's worth my time. So I'm just going to show you now what this process looks like in Rome. So firstly, I am going to go find the notes. So I'm taking these notes from Nat Eliasson and also a guy called Graham Mann. So what I do is I will literally copy and paste all of the notes. Go into Rome. This is my kind of like book template. When I'm doing this, I've got this as a template and I'll just copy and paste it in. Then I'll take in also these notes. As you can see, these notes from Graham Mann on this book are long. That isn't taking me 5 minutes to read through that. Look how long these notes are. That arguably these are extremely long notes. So yeah, copy and paste all of this. Right, so now that I've copied and pasted the 2 sets of notes from the websites into Roam, I'm now going to go through these and I'm going to highlight or copy and paste basically anything that stands out to me and pop it in my highlight section. And I'm just going to go through this now and do that, and then I'll come back and talk about the next step. Right, so I've just finished going through all of the summary notes. It's taken me about 45-50 minutes because they were quite detailed. So as you can see here, right, I've got highlights from Nat's and from Graham's, and this was anything that stood out to me in their notes. And now what I'm going to do now, as I've alluded to previously, is I'm going to reread each of these points that I've highlighted, and then determine whether it's something that makes sense to me, it's a standalone point, or whether I'd like to go and explore that further in the book and read around that statement in itself. And you should be able to do this fairly easily. Like, there'd be certain things where you probably feel like you don't need to go and read more about it, but there'll be other things that kind of pique your curiosity and you want to go read more about it. So I'm just going to do that now. I'll work from the top to the bottom, and then any thing that I find within the book that surround that note, I'll just nest that under the notes. So I'm just going to go through that now, and then I'll come back and show you what I do then after that. I'll then also start to highlight anything in these sections that really stands out to me, that will be going then, which then I'll look at to put into my summary notes. Right, and so once I've done that, I would have basically gone through and highlighted different things that stood out to me within my highlights, gone and researched them further if required, and then made additional notes underneath. And then the next stage would be to then take all of those things that have stood out to me within the highlights, and to start thinking about what the key points and the summary is of the detailed summary. And what that would start to do was it would give me a really good and better idea of what the book's about, as opposed to just reading the summary of the summary notes. I've actually gone and read bits of the book, and I've read all of kind of summaries from all the different chapters, understood what would have stood out to me, and so I would then go and do that. That would be about, I don't know, 10 points roughly. And then once I've done that, I then would put some thoughts. So the thoughts would be my thoughts towards reading the book, but thoughts on whether I should essentially read the book or not. What do I think I would further gain from reading the book? Is it worth reading the book? So just anything I'm thinking, like kind of just in my head about, okay, well, I've just read those notes. Like, what did I think of them? And then that would then give me, I would then fill out the relevancy and the score and say, okay, well, the relevancy is kind of, is this relevant to me now? And to give it the score of like just how I'd rate the book. And then once I've done this then gives me a better idea of whether or not I want to actually read the full book and where it sits in my list of books to read next. I'm obviously reading one book at the moment, and by the time I finish that book, if I do this once a week, that's taken me about an hour so far, so maybe take about an hour and a half. If I do that once a week, if it takes me a month to read a book, so I read 10 to 15 minutes before I go to bed, and I'm a slow reader, it takes me long to read a book. In that period of time I can get 4 or 5 books written up like this, and out of those 4 or 5 books I'll then make the decision based on the notes which of those books is the best one for me to read next, because I don't really want to start a book or get halfway through a book and just think this is shit, I've wasted my time, or there just be one chapter that's useful. So by doing this method I can distinguish, actually, well, this book had 10 chapters, how many of those chapters actually stood out to me? If 7 or 8 of them did, well then I think it's worth reading the book. If only 1 or 2 of them did, then I don't think it's worth reading the whole book. But great, I was able to read one or 2 of those chapters, get more insight into that, read around it, get the information and extract the wisdom and knowledge from it, and I'm never going to read that book, but I've taken I've taken the bits in that book that were relevant and applied to me without having to spend a month reading a book that just was a bit of a waste of time. And then just going back to my notes, I'll then set some review dates to review these notes, and that will be next week, a month, 3 months, 6 months, and a year, just so that they don't just kind of just go out of my head and I don't remember it again. And then the final step would be to, because this is sort of a book that's kind of about like life principles, like ways of thinking, I would probably take a few of my summary points that really stood out to me, that really resonated me, and put them into my life principles page, where I've just got loads of just different things from different books. And I'd also put it in maybe in my daily reminder or weekly reminder, just if there's something that really stands out to me and something that I want to constantly think about so that it's instilled in my brain, I'll put that in my daily reminder so I'm constantly thinking about myself. So yeah, hope that's been helpful, and I just want to say, like, this does not replace reading the whole book, but for me personally, if I have built a habit where I can do this once a week, I can get through 4 or 5 books in a month, and take some good information and knowledge from them without having to read them all. And then I've then also got a really good idea of what book I'm going to be reading the next month from those 5 where I've taken notes, and therefore I'm not wasting my time reading a book that's just going to be shit. So yeah, hopefully that has been helpful and people can kind of take that, maybe implement it themselves. It works for me, and I just wanted to just share my ideas and thoughts on how you can extract more information from more books in less time. So thanks for watching. If you like the video, hit subscribe, give me a like, and I'll see you again next week. Have a nice day. Bye bye.